going to talk a little bit about co-regulation with your dog. So all mammals have mirror neurons, which is something that's in our brain that allows us to connect to other mammals, whether it's in our own species or in a different species. And what those mirror neurons do is it helps us to take in the emotions of those around us and helps us to empathize with it. So when we are around an anxious person, we tend to start feeling anxious ourselves. And same with animals. If we are anxious, they will start picking up on our anxiety. And if they're anxious, we will start feeling it in ourselves. And sometimes if you're just starting out with this, it's hard to tell whether the anxiety you're feeling is yours or the animal or person you're around. But as you do it more, you'll start to be able to tell when the anxiety is yours and the anxiety is the dog's, or the horse, or the other person in the room. So when you're doing this exercise of co-regulation, it really doesn't matter in the beginning, or really at all, whose anxiety it is, because the co-regulation will help you both calm down. So what I've got right here is I have two dogs that are reactive, and we are working on being able to focus and stay relaxed together. So Bronson, the lighter dog on the other side of the fence, he's done a lot more of this exercise than Biggs has. Biggs is fairly new to it. Here's my little black and white buddy here. So what I'm doing with Bronson is a little bit of an orientation game. I'm just taking the treats, tossing them over the fence, and giving him some reason to turn away from the other dog. So it reconditions his desire to lunge and bark at the fence. What I'm doing with Binks, I can do a little bit of the orientation game as well, which brings some movement into it and allows him to settle a little bit more. And I'm also doing some pattern walking. So as I'm doing pattern walking, I'm going to keep him on a leash that is shorter and keep him on one side. So I'm only going to give him about a foot of leash. He doesn't need the whole 6 feet. And I'm going to walk in circles and serpentines and figure eights. I'm going to walk into his space, and then I'm going to walk away from his space. And I'm basically keeping a nice, steady rhythm. If he gets distracted, I'm just going to give little tugs and keep my rhythm steady so he has something to follow. And this gives him something else to focus on, which is kind of like a little doggy meditation. So when he's focused on his feet and what I'm doing, he's focused on the present, which allows him to start calming down. And as I'm doing this, I'm also going to check in with my own body, and I'm going to do some deep breaths and let all of the air out. So a nice deep breath in, and a nice deep breath out. And a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. And you'll start to see as you're doing this that your own dog is going to start doing the same. They might be taking a deep breath and a deep sigh with you, or you might just notice that their body's getting a little more relaxed and they're getting a little more focused. I'm also going to check in with my body physically, because if my body is tight in any way, there's any tension, it's going to translate to Binks as tension. So if I'm tightening up on my leash, expecting him to pull or bark or lunge, that leash pressure is going to translate to him that there's something to be worried about. And it's also going to give him something to lean on and be tense about. So if my arms are soft, my shoulders, elbows, wrists, everywhere through there, and my upper body, then I can give him softness to lean on and a nice relaxed start. And if he does go to pull, I can use my core. So if he goes to pull, I can bend my elbow and kind of sit down almost in a little squat so that the power comes from my core. And if he goes to pull, he's not pulling my shoulder and pulling me forward. He's actually pulling my core, which makes me a lot more solid. So by doing that, checking in with my body, checking in where the tension is, and releasing any tension physically and releasing any tension in my nerves, allows me to help him get nice and settled. Good. So now he can see that other dog, and Bronson can see Binks, And they can both focus on what the next game is when I drop the food, or we go for a little walk, or we do some pattern walking. So I hope this helps when you're working with your dog. The mirror neurons are amazing things, and if you love to geek out about that stuff, check it out online. There's tons of research on mirror neurons. They're really cool.